Hello. Before I tell you this story, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to share could cost me my career, maybe even my life. Up here in northern Utah, in the cold, empty parts of the Wasatch and the Bear River Range, we lose people every winter. The official reports always say the same thing. Hypothermia, got lost, wandered off. But those of us who patrol these mountains know better. If someone you love ever went missing out here, if the explanation never made sense, then hit the like button so someone else sees this. Comment, so I know I'm not the only one who's seen the snow move when the wind is perfectly still. Subscribe if you want more stories authorities don't want told. My name is Evan Markham, and I've been a park ranger for 9 years. And the night the snow started shifting on its own, that was the night I realized our protocols exist for a reason. The morning the boy vanished, the wind had a sharp edge, the kind that slices through wool and down jackets. I remember stepping out of the ranger cabin and feeling it press against my chest like an invisible hand. A radio call from dispatch broke the silence, clipped and professional, yet my stomach dropped instantly. Rourke, you're closest to Pine Hollow Ridge. Report of a missing 11-year-old. Family last saw him on the sledding slope. Possible fall. Possible fall. They always say before switching to probable exposure fatality. But something tugged at me, deep in my gut, something I couldn't rationalize. Pine Hollow Ridge was familiar territory. I knew every curve, every tree stand, every hidden drift. And yet, I had the sense that the snow itself was hiding something. Not the child, but something that had him. I grabbed my pack, avalanche wand and thermal scanner, and called my trainee, Lena Maddox, to meet me at the ridge. She was only 3 months into the park system, but sharp and brave, with instincts that made her invaluable in situations like this. When I arrived, the boy's parents were shouting into the trees. Their voices echoed strangely against the mountains, warped, distorted, like bouncing off some unseen walls. The snow muffles sound, but it doesn't bend it like this. I scanned the slope, looking for tracks. There were prints, small boots, spaced close together, leading into the trees. Then they stopped abruptly. No slide marks, no signs of a stumble. The snow was smooth, undisturbed, just ending. I crouched, pressing a gloved hand against the drift. The snow collapsed into a hollow space below. Impossible. Snow caves of this size don't form overnight. And yet, here was a perfect cavity, as if something had tunneled beneath. A soft, dragging sound reached my ears, subtle, just below perception, like a creature moving under the snow crust. I yanked my hand back. Lena appeared behind me, her face pale. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said, my voice low. "Don't call out loud." We established a search perimeter, sticking to protocol, last known location, identify tracks, assess avalanche risk, sweep in widening circles, log every step. Rangers spend years drilling these procedures, but the rules exist for more than safety. They exist because the snow has a memory. Some things can move beneath it. The mother suddenly cried out. Half buried in the drift was a glove, perfectly intact. I pressed my hand beside it, feeling the hollow again. Warm, not just ambient temperature, but radiating warmth from beneath. I radioed Lena. Nothing, just static. I moved toward the tree line, following her trail. The snowpack felt wrong underfoot, fragile, crusted, hollow pockets that should have collapsed under my weight. My wand punched through multiple times without resistance. Warm pockets, aligned in a strange pattern, stretched along the slope. Suddenly, the mother screamed again. The boy was there, standing at the end of the trail, perfectly still, his clothes untouched, no frost, no dirt. Just standing, his head turned slowly, too mechanically, too stiffly, blank eyes staring past his mother. I held a hand up to stop her from rushing forward. Something about the boy felt wrong. Hollow, listening, watching, not the child we knew, but a projection of him. We brought the parents back to the ranger station, the boy between them. On the hike back, I noticed a subtle mimicry. The boy's stride matched Lena's exactly, her rhythm, her cadence. Not natural, not human. At the station, the medic checked him. He answered questions, but his eyes never met anyone. He repeated the medic's words in perfect tone and inflection. Lena's eyes went wide. "Kids don't do that," she whispered. I felt the full weight of the situation. There was no ordinary explanation. The boy had been in contact with something beneath the snow that had altered his behavior. Before we could arrange further evaluation, Superintendent Farlow arrived. His arrival was smooth, professional. Too professional. He told the parents the boy was fine, no medical check required. His tone suggested control, authority, dismissal. I tried to argue, mention his unusual responses. Farlow didn't even look at me. He's stable. Children wander. Panic can make them act strange. You'll see, after a warm meal, he'll be himself. I realized then this wasn't the first time Farlow had covered up something. The first disappearance of the season, the body of the elk found unnaturally posed. It was all being ignored. After the parents left, Farlow shut the door and delivered a warning. You two saw nothing unusual. We were left with a growing horror. The snow around the cabin rippled again, faintly, subtly like a pulse, as if something beneath was settling in, watching. Lena turned to me, pale. "This isn't right. None of it is." "No," I agreed, "and I don't think it will ever be right again." The chapter closes with the snow outside, still and silent, holding its secrets. Something beneath it has returned the boy, something intelligent, something waiting. The morning after the boy's strange return, the cabin felt heavier. Not the physical weight of snow on the roof, but the weight of what we couldn't see. I ran my hands over the maps on the table, the thermal scanner lying cold beside them. Lena sat across from me, tapping her pen nervously. We didn't speak at first. Words felt dangerous. "Let's review the rules," I said finally. "You need to know them because they're more than just procedure. They're survival." Lena nodded. Her eyes were wide. "Okay." I leaned over the table, tracing the hand-drawn perimeter of Pine Hollow Ridge and the surrounding gully. Rule 1, never, ever go past boundary marker 12 after sunset. The drift beyond that point is unstable, hollowed out by tunnels we cannot see. I let that sink in. If someone does, we have 30 minutes to locate them before the snow itself will betray our scent. She swallowed hard. 30 minutes. That's short. Short enough to make you reconsider every step you take out here. I pointed to another section on the map. Rule 2, don't disturb deep drifts along the old avalanche chute. Last winter, an entire hiker party vanished there. Officially, lost in blizzard. Unofficially, I didn't finish the sentence. Some things didn't need words. Lena's hand went to her mouth. Unofficially, I shook my head. Not safe to say. Rule 3, never respond to human-sounding calls beyond radio range. The snow can imitate voices. Mimic what's most familiar. Some things use it to lure you. We call it the echo of familiarity. Don't answer. Don't move. Don't let instinct override training. Her breath hitched. So the boy, when he spoke. I nodded. Under. That word, that tone. Someone or something was training him. Testing. Measuring. We left the cabin before noon, heading toward the gully. Lena carried the thermal scanner. I carried the avalanche wand. The sky was bruised with clouds, heavy with unfallen snow. The wind was sharp, cutting through layers of wool and fleece alike. But strangely, the air held no sound. Silence had a density out here, and silence can hide intelligence. We followed the initial footprints of a missing hiker, a young man named Nathan Price. Last seen 3 days ago. The snow around the trail was too smooth, untouched by wind, too uniform for normal accumulation. The prints abruptly ended. The snow beyond was undisturbed. Hollow. I poked the snow with the wand. Hollow. Warm. Pockets again, Lena whispered. I scanned the slope with the thermal camera. The display glitched. A ripple of static, warping into shapes that suggested mass, but nothing fully formed. Then a small bulge appeared beneath the snow, long and low, flattening as if it were observing us. Did you see that? Lena said, voice trembling. I didn't answer. I only adjusted the camera, focusing. The bulge shifted with intelligence, moving in coordinated waves like a centipede, but slower, deliberate enough to terrify. We proceeded with extreme caution, maintaining a safe perimeter. I radioed dispatch, but our signal scrambled into static. Whatever lurked here was not only intelligent, it was actively manipulating our communication. We found a tree limb, snapped in half. Nearby, the snow had collapsed into a long cavity, smooth walls inside, polished as though something had dragged itself through recently. I placed my hand on the rim and felt warmth radiating upward. Not sun-warmed, not human body-warmed. Something deeper. Lena shivered. "It's alive." "Yes," I said softly. "And it's learning." We heard a soft voice, a mimicry, calling, "Help, help me." Neither of us moved. My training screamed, "Don't respond." Instinct screamed, "Run." But we were already too deep. The snow bulge shifted, and the thermal scanner picked up partial heat signatures. Nothing solid, nothing fully defined, but human-shaped approximations flickering, forming and reforming. My stomach turned. This wasn't just mimicry. This was a practice, a rehearsal for capture. I motioned to Lena. Step back slowly. The boy's voice echoed again, this time perfectly mimicking Lena. Evan, wait." I gritted my teeth. Do not go toward it. We backed away carefully. Every step had to be deliberate. Even then, the snow shifted with us, subtle ripples forming parallel to our movement, as if it were studying our gait, recording every weight transfer, every timing of stride. Hours passed. The sun slipped behind clouds. Shadows elongated. The gully appeared ordinary from above, but beneath, the snow's crust seemed to pulse faintly. Hollow pockets formed along precise lines, hinting at tunnels that had existed far longer than any seasonal drift. I took notes meticulously. Coordinates, shapes, patterns. I couldn't trust anyone else to read these reports. Superintendent Farlow would call it overactive imagination. But I knew what I saw. Eventually, we found Nathan's backpack, intact but filled with snow. No warmth, no scent. Something, or someone, had washed it clean. My stomach sank. The snow had a method, a purpose. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. We should leave. Now. But I didn't. Not yet. I wanted evidence. I wanted confirmation. And that's when I saw it. A shadow beneath the snow, long, wrong-shaped, half-human, half something else. It didn't move like a person. It twisted in segments, impossible angles, shifting fluidly under a crust that should have crushed anything alive. For a heartbeat, I considered the boy again, his mimicry, his tone, his blank eyes. "They're practicing," I said quietly. "They mimic us. They measure us. They adapt." Lena looked at me, fear and unmingling. "So it could be under anyone?" "Yes," I whispered. "Anyone, anywhere." As we retreated to the cabin, every step felt heavier. I radioed dispatch again. Nothing, just static. The sun set behind the ridges, long shadows stretching across Pine Hollow. The snow rippled faintly one last time, just enough to remind us that it had been observing all day, learning. We arrived at the cabin exhausted, snow clinging to clothing and equipment. Lena sat quietly, refusing to look out the windows. I stared at the gully. The snow's surface looked ordinary smooth, but I knew better. Rule 4 unspoken. Never trust the snow to remain still. Never trust what it hides. I finally allowed myself a breath, knowing the danger wasn't gone, not even close. And somewhere beneath the crust, I knew Nathan was waiting, not fully there, not fully gone, but observed, measured, recorded. Night fell like a curtain over Pine Hollow Ridge, heavy and suffocating. The moon struggled through cloud cover, casting pale streaks across the snow. The wind had dropped to a near-perfect stillness, so still it felt as though the mountains themselves were holding their breath. I adjusted my pack, feeling the weight of the avalanche wand and thermal camera pressing against my shoulders, and glanced at Lena. She looked pale, her eyes darting to every shadow, every outline. This is a part of the ridge where the drift is deepest. I said softly, "The risk isn't just snow. It's whatever made those hollow pockets." Lena nodded, swallowing hard. Do we really have to be here tonight? Yes. Observation only. Keep the scanners running. Keep your head down. And remember the rules. She pulled her jacket tighter, scanning the slope through the night vision lens. Every detail was amplified. The subtle dips, the faint shimmer of ice, the delicate textures of fresh snow. At first, the gully looked ordinary. Innocent. Too innocent. Then the thermal scanner flickered. The display warped with static, forming faint, horizontal lines along the slope. And beneath the distortion, a shadow moved. Do you see that? Lena whispered. I squinted through my goggles. The snow shifted in a long, smooth ripple, not collapsing, not sliding. Just a deliberate, continuous movement along the gully floor. My stomach sank. This was no natural drift, no settling snow. It's back, I murmured. We froze. Every instinct screamed to retreat, but we couldn't. The ridge offered the only vantage point. We crouched, scanning the slope. The ripple paused, then thickened into a faint, elongated bulge. Beneath the crust, something long, far too long for any local animal, was moving. I swallowed, keeping my voice calm. Length looks human-like, but wrong. Not human at all. The bulge undulated smoothly, joints bending in impossible ways. The snow above it stretched slightly, revealing pale, translucent skin, almost glowing under moonlight. I could see segmented ridges underneath, like the creature's skeleton had multiple independent sections. Lena gasped softly. Oh, God! Quiet, I said. Don't move. The creature pressed closer to the crust. A small area thinned. Light from the moon struck just right, and I saw an eye, dark, round, and blinking sideways. Not mammalian, not human, watching us. I felt Lena's hand grip my sleeve. It saw us. I don't know, I admitted, but it's aware of us. We stayed low, observing. The creature undulated, shifting in ways that suggested intelligence, awareness. The heat signature was partial, fragmented, enough to recognize a living, thinking entity. And then the snow around it rippled in multiple smaller waves, synchronized, parallel. Lena, I whispered, there's more than one. She swallowed, eyes wide. A nest. Yes, and they've been here longer than anyone admitted. I signaled her to back up slowly. Every step we took, the snow reacted, ripples forming parallel to our movement, as if the ground itself was recording our gait. I checked the thermal camera. Partial heat signatures moving beneath the surface. Hollow pockets aligned along precise lines, forming what looked like an organized network of tunnels. I tapped the avalanche wand, probing one of the hollows. It plunged 3 feet before striking a solid surface. Smooth, polished, warm. Structure's wrong. I muttered, these tunnels aren't just erosion. They're deliberately formed. A soft, distorted voice reached my ears, mimicking Lena. Evan, help me. We didn't respond. Not a word. Not a sound. Training screamed, don't answer. But instinct screamed, run. The bulge shifted again, flattening beneath the crust. The scanner glitched violently, static crossing the screen. Then, in a brief moment, a perfect human silhouette emerged, forming under the snow, pale, wrong, impossible. It mimicked what it had seen, a human form practicing for interaction, practicing for capture. Lena's breath caught. It's learning. Yes, I whispered. It's learning, watching, waiting. We retreated slowly up the slope, never turning our backs. The snow continued to move faintly beneath our feet, hollow pockets forming in precise patterns, like a measuring tape under ice. My stomach turned as I thought about the boy. Under, that single word. Everything fit. This thing or things were measuring, mimicking, preparing. Hours passed. The moonlight faded behind clouds, shadows stretching long and distorted. My stomach nodded as we mapped each hollow, noting temperature gradients and strange heat pockets. Every measurement we took, every observation we recorded, reinforced a terrifying truth. The snow was intelligent. We reached the ridge where we had started, exhausted. Lena sank onto a rock, shivering. "They're organizing," she whispered. "They weren't moving randomly. They were coordinating." I stared down at the gully. The hollow pockets, ridges, and tunnels stretched farther than we'd observed before. Some disappeared into shadow. Some disappeared into the forest, toward locations of prior disappearances, long before any modern record. "They predate the missing hikers," I said quietly. "This isn't new. They've been practicing for decades, maybe longer." Lena's voice was barely audible. "And the boy—" I looked at her. He wasn't taken. He was measured, tested, recorded, and returned. A cold wind swept up the ridge. Not ordinary wind. Something that carried a whisper of warmth from the snow beneath, a signal of life that should not exist. The surface rippled again, faintly, in a spiral pattern centered on the gully. Watching, preparing, we retreated to the cabin, each step deliberate, careful. I radioed dispatch again, static. Nothing. It was as though our presence had been erased, our attempt to report nullified. Inside, the cabin was quiet, almost oppressive. Lena refused to look at the windows. I knew she was replaying the movements of the bulge under the snow, the eye, the human-shaped mimicry. I traced the rule in my mind. Never trust the snow to remain still. Never trust what it hides. Even now, I know it's out there, beneath the snowpack, learning, adapting, observing, waiting for the next mistake. And somewhere deep in the gully, in the hollowed tunnels, the boy's memory of the day still lingers, a measurement for whatever comes next. The morning after the partial reveal, tension hung like fog over the cabin. Even the wood stove's heat didn't reach the chill inside my bones. Lena and I had barely slept, taking turns keeping scanner running. Every so often, the snow outside would ripple faintly, subtle, deliberate, a reminder that whatever we were tracking didn't need to fully surface to exist. I heard the knock before I saw him. Mason Holt, the voice called from the cabin door. I opened it to find a 21-year-old trainee from the Salt Lake Ranger program, energetic, ambitious, eager to prove himself. Bright eyes, confident stance, but inexperienced. The boyish bravado didn't mask his nervousness entirely. "You're Evan Markham?" he asked. "I was told you were handling the missing hiker reports." "Yes," I said cautiously. "We're on Pine Hollow Ridge. Come inside. We need to brief you." Lena watched him warily. "He's new," she warned. "You sure it's safe to bring him up here?" "It's necessary," I replied. "I need him to understand the protocols." Mason's enthusiasm was quickly tempered when I laid out the rules. Never cross boundary marker 12 after sunset. Don't disturb deep drifts in the avalanche chute. Ignore human-sounding calls beyond radio range. The snow can imitate voices, familiar voices, and it will try to lure you. Never respond. His eyes went wide. Imitate voices? I nodded grimly. You'll understand soon enough. We left the cabin mid-afternoon, following a faint trail reported by hikers in the previous week. The snow was fragile here, and the ridge was steep. Every step required precision. I held Mason back when he attempted to step on a snow crust too thin to hold his weight. "Slow down," I said. "The snow can break, but more than that, it can observe. It can adapt. It can test you." He laughed nervously. "Testing me?" "Yes. The last missing hiker. The boy, the man from 3 days ago. They weren't lost. They were measured, recorded, returned." As we reached a hollow ridge, Mason tripped. The snow beneath him collapsed, creating a cavity waist-deep. He froze, eyes wide with panic. I grabbed his arm and pulled him back. "Don't let instinct take over," I said firmly. "Step carefully. Measure your weight. Move deliberately." He nodded, shaking, trying to mimic my movements. The thermal scanner picked up an anomaly. Long, low, barely defined shapes beneath the snow. Not solid forms, but heat pockets, moving in segmented waves. Mimicry, practice, observation. I realized that the snow beings weren't just passive predators. They were calculating, studying us, recording every stride, Every breath, every rhythm. Look at that, Lena whispered. Her eyes tracked the undulating heat patterns. They're coordinating. Multiple forms. Like a school of fish under ice. Yes, I said. And the next step will be interaction. We found the missing hiker's backpack. Intact, but filled with snow. No warmth, no scent. The contents were untouched. Someone or something had washed it clean, preparing the space beneath the snow. A voice echoed faintly across the ridge. Mason froze. Mom. It was impossible. Mason's mother lived 2 states away. The snow had mimicked her voice perfectly. His instinct pulled him forward. I grabbed him, holding him back. Do not answer. I shouted. Do not move. His eyes welled with tears. But it's her. Not her, Lena said softly. It's copying her. It's a trap. I felt the weight of responsibility pressing on me. Mason was inexperienced, vulnerable. The mimicry was personal, targeted, emotional. One wrong move, one step into the hollow, and the snow could take him, and the authorities would call an accident. Hours passed in tense silence. The snow beneath our boots shifted faintly, hollow pockets forming in precise parallel lines, mapping our path, recording our movement. I realized that the tunnels beneath the ridge were much more extensive than I had feared. Some vanished under the ridge, disappearing into older, deeper drifts that had survived multiple seasons. Mason's breathing became shallow. He was watching the hollow spaces, seeing shapes form, dissolve, repeat. I think I saw someone move under there, he whispered. Yes, I said quietly. You did, but it's not human. Not yet, and it's learning from us. Night fell. The ridge became a canvas of shadows and muted moonlight. I noted every hollow pocket, every undulation in the snow. Mason's face, full of fear and awe, reminded me of my own early years as a ranger. That fear, the raw, immediate understanding that you're small and fragile in a landscape that can kill, was exactly what the snow was studying. Then it happened. A partial shape emerged beneath the crust. A translucent, pale form, humanoid in approximation but too long, segmented. It twisted its joints in impossible angles. One glowing, dark eye opened sideways. It watched Mason, then me, then Lena. Its attention was deliberate, evaluating. Mason gasped and stumbled backward. I grabbed his shoulder. Step back slowly. Do not run. The snow ripple intensified, faint hums echoing beneath the crust. The partial form undulated, flattening, then splitting into smaller segments, moving in coordinated patterns. I realized then it was teaching. One form, multiple variations. Learning from each reaction we made. Evan, what do we do? Lena whispered. Observe. Record. Don't make sudden movements. I replied. We survive by understanding its behavior. Hours later, we finally retreated to the cabin, exhausted. Mason's hands shook, eyes wide. Lena helped him inside. I checked the thermal camera one last time before shutting it down. The heat patterns beneath the gullies shifted, moving away from the ridge, then converging in a deeper drift. I realized the full implications. The tunnels weren't just passive. They were living networks, subterranean pathways beneath the snow, shaped over decades, perhaps longer. Whatever resided within was patient, intelligent, and adaptive. I sat by the stove, Mason curled in a blanket, Lena beside him. The 3 of us, huddled in warmth, were painfully aware that outside, the snow was not inert. It was alive in a way we couldn't fully grasp, mimicking, measuring, waiting. And somewhere, beneath the frozen surface of Pine Hollow Ridge, the missing hiker and countless others were being recorded, observed, integrated into the patterns. I finally allowed myself to speak aloud. If anyone out there is still listening, please understand this. The snow here is not safe. Not even familiar faces can be trusted. And if it calls your name, do not follow. Mason shivered, repeating my words quietly to himself, almost as if he knew they might save him one day. And as the cabin fell silent, I felt a presence outside, subtle but undeniable, a faint ripple in the snow, the echo of something learning, calculating, and waiting for the next mistake. The blizzard hit without warning. 1 minute. The ridge was visible, the pale shapes of distant pines etched against the horizon. The next, snow swirled like white ink, reducing visibility to barely a few feet. Wind gusted toward our jackets. Snow stung exposed skin, and the hollow pockets beneath us seemed to shift with every step. It was a perfect camouflage. Mason, stay close. I shouted over the roar of the storm. Lena's eyes scanned the ridge ahead. Every shadow a possible threat. We were moving toward a sector the rangers marked as off-limits. The old avalanche chute, deeper than any drift we'd mapped, labeled forbidden for patrols. I don't like this, Lena said, gripping her wand like a lifeline. We shouldn't be here. Not in this weather. I swallowed. The truth was, we had no choice. Mason had chased that phantom voice earlier, drawn deeper into the ridge than he realized. And now, the creatures, or the snow itself, were testing us. The slope was steeper than I remembered, hollow pockets appearing unpredictably. I measured each step, tapping with the wand to ensure the crust could hold. But something was different. The snow wasn't passive. It reacted. It flexed under our weight, subtle undulations anticipating our movement. Mason tripped, nearly disappearing into a hollow cavity. Lena grabbed him, yanking him back with all her strength. "Do not panic," she shouted. "Stay calm." A voice called from the snow, a perfect mimic of Lena, terrified and pleading. Mason's instincts nearly drove him forward, but I grabbed his arm, planting him firmly. "Do not answer," I barked, not a step further. Then the attack began. A section of the snow ridge collapsed beneath me, not like ordinary snow. This was deliberate, hollowed tunnels shifting to trap me. I barely leapt back, wand stabbing at the crust to stabilize my footing. The hollow cavity opened like a mouth, and I could feel pressure at my feet, as though something massive moved just beneath. The snow around Lena rippled, forming thin, elongated shapes, almost tendrils. They moved with purpose, latching at her boots. She screamed, yanking herself free. Mason froze in terror, eyes wide. I grabbed a rope from my pack and anchored it to a nearby pine. We gear out safely, then retreat. I yelled. The snow surged like water, segments of translucent mass pushing upward, attempting to mimic Lena's shape. Her voice rang out, identical to the echo beneath the crust, but we ignored it. Her form above ground was real. The echo beneath was a trap. Mason's courage failed him. He attempted to run. I caught his arm mid-stride. Step slowly. Step carefully. I shouted, "They're recording you. Every panic reaction, every instinct, they feed off it." The snow surged again. This time, a tendril grabbed my leg. Cold, impossibly solid yet malleable, it tried to pull me down. I kicked with all my strength, clawing at the crust. Lena yanked me back, and Mason screamed. The three of us were nearly overwhelmed. I realized then, these creatures didn't just mimic, they measure. Every movement, every step, every reaction taught them how to anticipate, how to trap. We fell back, retreating to a small ridge jutting out of snow. The storm howled, but there was still a silence beneath the snow, calculated, observing, waiting for our next move. The attack wasn't over. Thin ridges of snow began to move in parallel waves toward us, hollow pockets opening like segmented doors. I could see faint, human-shaped forms below the surface, twisting and stretching at impossible angles. They were testing us, probing our reactions, trying to imitate our formations, perhaps even our thinking. I shouted to Mason, "Do you understand now? You follow my movements. Mirror my pace. Every deviation could cost you." He nodded, trembling. His hand clutched the wand like a lifeline. Then a voice came from the hollow below. Not Lena, not Mason, not me. Something else. A low, distorted tone. "Evan," it was my own voice, warped. Calm, confident, instructing, reassuring. But I knew it was wrong. My voice had been recorded, distorted, repeated, now used against me. Lena froze, her eyes wide. "It knows you," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "It knows all of us." We coordinated. Step by step, hand by hand, we retreated, careful to keep weight evenly distributed, tapping constantly with the wand. The snow segments pulsed beneath us in response, testing balance, testing coordination. It followed, adjusted, adapted. Suddenly, Mason's foot broke through a thin crust. He dropped into a cavity thigh deep. The hollow walls were smooth, too smooth, polished by repeated movement, practiced tunnels. I lunged, grabbing his arm and yanking him free. The snow immediately collapsed behind him, hiding whatever was waiting. By the time we reached a safer area, hours had passed. We were exhausted, frozen, emotionally drained. Lena had checked Mason for frostbite, but his skin was pale, almost unnaturally cold. I checked the slope one last time. Faint ripples stretched toward the old chute. Hollow tunnels, perfectly formed, extended farther than we could see. Heat signatures beneath the crust flickered in segmented waves, reorganizing. The snow was alive in a calculated way. Intelligent, adaptive, deadly. I knew then that Pine Hollow Ridge wasn't just dangerous. It was sentient, aware, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Back at the cabin, Lena and I barricaded the doors and windows. Mason sat shivering, eyes darting to every shadow. He whispered. It knew my mom's voice. It almost got me. Yes, I said. And next time it might succeed. We survived because we stayed calm. It learns from mistakes. I looked at Lena. We have to document everything. Every hollow, every pattern, every mimicry. If anyone else comes here, they need to know. They need to survive longer than we did today. Outside, the wind continued, but now it carried a subtle, almost rhythmic pulse through the snow. Hollow pockets rose and fell in a wave-like pattern, observing us, practicing, waiting. And I knew that this first attack was only the beginning. The snow was no longer passive. It was proactive. It sought, studied, and hunted. The next morning, the ridge was deceptively calm. The blizzard had passed, leaving the snow smooth and gleaming under the weak sunlight. But I knew better. Beneath that pristine surface, the tunnels remained. Hollow pockets, heat signatures, adaptive forms. Intelligent, patient, calculating. Inside the cabin, Lena and I pored over old Ranger files I had smuggled from the main office. Superintendent Farlow's tight control over incident reports had always bothered me, but now the reason was horrifyingly clear. Decades of disappearances, each with carefully erased evidence, each labeled as lost in snow or blizzard fatality, were anything but ordinary accidents. The first file was dated 1978. A family of 3 vanished on Pine Hollow Ridge. Official report, blizzard-induced disorientation. Photos showed smooth snow, undisturbed by wind, surrounding the site, but the accompanying sketch by the ranger on scene indicated hollow pockets beneath, and the father's glove found atop the drift, radiating warmth even hours later. Lena's voice trembled. They knew something was living beneath the snow even back then. Yes, I said grimly, and no one acted, or if they did, the evidence was suppressed. Another file, 1985. A solo hiker, last seen near the old avalanche chute. Report noted footprints that abruptly stopped. Witnesses heard someone or something call his name. The final note, scribbled in shaky handwriting, read, "The snow moved on its own. It mimicked my voice. I saw its eye. It watched." I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding. "This isn't new," I said. "These things, whatever they are, they've been here for decades. Learning, growing, observing, and we're only now realizing it." Lena flipped through a thick binder of maps and annotations. Some were hand-drawn, dating back to the 1960s, showing unusual hollow pockets, unexplained collapses, and areas marked forbidden. Every previous ranger who noticed anomalies either disappeared or was silenced, she whispered. I nodded. That's why Farlow's so protective. He's part of the system. He's been covering these disappearances, labeling them as accidents, erasing the danger from official records. He doesn't want anyone else knowing the snow is inert. Mason sat quietly in the corner, still shaken from the attack. "So the boy?" The hikers? They were experiments. Yes, I said softly. Measurements, observations, tests. I pulled out my thermal scanner, showing him the patterns we had recorded. See this? These segmented heat signatures, the hollow pockets, the tunnels? They weren't random. They're organized. They mimic. They adapt. They calculate. And they've done it for decades. Mason's eyes went wide. Decades? Yes. Every year, every season, countless people vanish, and the snow remembers them, learns from them. I turned to Lena. We need to understand the structure of these tunnels. The old avalanche chute is only part of it. There's a network beneath the ridge. Hollow pockets that connect the entire ridge like veins beneath the surface. Lena frowned. And they're intelligent, adaptive. They can communicate. Somehow, the boy, he wasn't taken. He was tested, recorded, and returned. Exactly, I said. The snow's intelligence is cumulative. Every mimicry, every interaction, every failure, it's learning. That's why it's never fully predictable. That's why the attacks are escalating. We studied the files further. In the late 1990s, multiple incidents were linked to the ridge. A ranger patrol went missing during a routine inspection. Official report: disoriented during storm. One field note: the snow shifted beneath our feet. We felt observed. We were lured. I closed the file slowly, feeling the full weight of decades of negligence. We're not just dealing with a natural hazard. We're dealing with something intelligent, and we're in their territory. Lena looked up, eyes wide. So the mimicry, the eye beneath the snow, it's been happening for generations? Yes. And the boy, the missing hikers, they're all part of its memory. It's adaptive, patient. It knows us before we know it. Mason swallowed hard. And Farlow, he's been covering all of this? I nodded. He controls the reports. Any evidence of intelligent movement, hollow pockets, mimicry, it's gone. So the public believes these are ordinary accidents. But we know better now. And that's why we have to be careful. Every step we take, every interaction, is being recorded. We went back to the ridge that evening, cautiously, using the maps from the files. The snow looked ordinary under fading sunlight, but I could feel the history beneath the crust. The tunnels, the hollow pockets, the paths of previous interactions. Every step echoed with decades of memory. Lena tapped her wand against a hollow pocket. Warmth radiated upward. "It's alive," she whispered. "Yes," I said softly. "And it remembers everything. Every person who's ever walked here, every mistake, every reaction. It's patient. It waits." We set up thermal scanners along the old chute, comparing patterns to historical files. Segmented heat signatures, hollow pockets, mimicry forms. It all matched. The patterns were cumulative, more complex than we'd imagined. The snow had evolved over decades, incorporating lessons from every disappearance. Mason shivered. "So, it's been practicing learning all this time and now it knows us?" "Yes," I said. "Every step we take, every reaction we make, it's learning. And we are the newest data." I looked out the window at the ridge. The snow gleamed under moonlight, deceptively calm. But beneath it, hollow tunnels stretched across the ridge like veins, alive with movement. Warm pockets pulsed, shifting, observing, calculating. It was patient. It was intelligent. And it was ready for the next interaction. The files, the tunnels, the mimicry, they all painted one terrifying conclusion. Pine Hollow Ridge had been a testing ground for generations. The snow itself wasn't just dangerous. It was a sentient, adaptive predator, perfectly camouflaged, infinitely patient. And now, after decades of study, it had turned its attention to us. The night was unusually silent. Even the wind that usually whispered through the pines had vanished, leaving Pine Hollow Ridge shrouded in a suffocating calm. Lena, Mason, and I moved cautiously, carrying the thermal scanners and avalanche wands, scanning the snow ahead for hollow pockets or heat signatures. My mind replayed the historical files, decades of disappearances, hollow tunnels, mimicry experiments. Tonight, we were walking directly into what the snow had been preparing for. The ridge ahead was deceptively calm. The snow surface glistened under the faint moonlight, smooth, undisturbed, yet I could feel it beneath my boots, alive, shifting subtly, calculating every movement. "Do you feel that?" Mason whispered, shivering. "Yes," I said quietly. "Every step counts. The snow is aware." We approached a section of the ridge we had previously mapped as dangerous but unexplored. A hollow network spanning nearly 50 meters, invisible beneath the deceptively smooth crust. Thermal scanners detected multiple heat pockets, segmented, moving in patterns. Mimicry forms. The creatures had already started rehearsing for tonight. Then the first mimicry appeared. A faint silhouette formed beneath the snow. Pale, segmented, human-shaped, twisting at impossible angles. It replicated Mason's stance perfectly, matching his exact position. He froze, eyes wide, realized that his own movements were mirrored beneath the crust. "Do not react," I shouted. "It's learning from you." The snow shifted aggressively. Hollow pockets opened at our feet, twisting upward like limbs, trying to destabilize us. Lena dodged a segment that rose suddenly, narrowly avoiding being dragged under. I jabbed my wand into a cavity, testing stability, but the surface flexed unpredictably, pushing me back. Mason stumbled. The mimicry beneath the snow extended a segmented limb, perfectly shaped to his form, reaching for him. I grabbed him, yanking him back just in time. The snow collapsed behind him, hiding the creature beneath once again. "We have to move slowly," I said. "Step carefully. Every misstep teaches it. Every panic reaction becomes part of its memory." The ridge narrowed. Hollow pockets appeared with alarming frequency, forming a labyrinth beneath the crust. I tapped with my wand constantly, checking thickness, stability, temperature. The thermal scanner flickered. Forms moved below the surface, partially visible, twisting, shifting, adapting to our movements. Suddenly, Lena screamed. I turned to see a section of the snow bulge upward, forming a perfect mimicry of her own body. The voice emanating from beneath was identical, trembling, terrified, calling for help. Mason froze again, instinct pulling him toward it. I lunged, gripping his arm. "Do not follow it," I shouted. "It's not her." The snow shifted rapidly, the mimicry forms multiplying, segments weaving together, collapsing some tunnels, opening new ones. The ridge seemed alive with intent. Hollow pockets pulsed beneath our feet, flexing like veins beneath ice, as if sensing where we applied weight. I realized the full danger. The snow didn't just react. It anticipated. It had learned from every prior disappearance, every mimicry test. Tonight, it was testing us fully. Mason's breathing grew ragged. I could feel his panic radiating through him. I knew instinct to betray him if I didn't act fast. "Follow me exactly," I ordered. "Mirror my steps. Don't think. Just move with me." Step by step, we advanced. The snow adjusted, testing our coordination, tilting hollow pockets to destabilize our balance, sending partial mimicries at us from multiple angles. One form, pale and segmented, lunged toward Lena. She sidestepped just in time, and the snow collapsed into the hollow behind it. The ridge narrowed further. I tapped repeatedly, measuring the crust. Hollow pockets formed below our feet with frightening precision. I realized some had been reinforced by layers of compacted snow. Structures built over years, decades, perfect for trapping unwary hikers. A deep rumble echoed beneath us. The snow surface trembled. Tunnels collapsed unexpectedly, forcing us to jump, stumble, and adjust mid-stride. Mason nearly fell into a cavity that extended 3 feet deep. Lena grabbed him, pulling him back. "We're too slow," Mason gasped. "It's everywhere." "Yes," I said, voice low and urgent. "It's learning from our fear." I glanced back toward the ridge we had descended from, smooth, deceptively calm. The thermal scanner revealed faint, elongated heat signatures converging on our path. They weren't just beneath us. They were moving around us, practicing strategies, testing reactions. Then the mimicry of the boy appeared. His pale face, blank eyes, repeated every motion Lena made perfectly. Mason gasped. The boy, it's him. Not him, I said, gripping his shoulder. It's a copy, only a record. The mimicry lunged with impossible speed. I swung my wand, stabbing the snow above its segments. It recoiled, disappearing into a hollow cavity, leaving only faint thermal traces behind. The ridge shook again, hollow pockets forming in rapid succession. We were trapped in a living labyrinth. I realized our only chance. Retreat with coordination, maintaining precise steps, never breaking formation, never panicking. Every mistake would be recorded, adapted to, and used against us. Step by step, inch by inch, we backed toward a safer slope. The snow rippled, segments of mimicry forming, collapsing, twisting, testing every reaction. I could feel the history beneath our feet. The decades of disappearances, hollow tunnels, mimicry forms, all converging into a singular intelligence. Finally, we reached a relatively stable ridge. The mimicries didn't follow beyond a certain point, retreating beneath the crust. Hollow pockets collapsed silently behind us, leaving smooth, deceptive surfaces. We collapsed, exhausted, snow clinging to our jackets, wands gripping tightly, thermal scanners flickering. Mason's hand shook violently. Lena refused to speak, staring blankly at the ridge. I whispered to them, "This isn't over. Not tonight. Not ever. Pine Hollow Ridge has been learning for decades, and now it has learned from us." Outside, the snow surface rippled faintly, almost imperceptibly. Hollow pockets shifted in a pattern, a pulse, a signal, observing, preparing, waiting. I knew then. The first direct confrontation had only just begun. The snow was not just adaptive, it was strategic, patient, intelligent, and hungry for its next test. Night had returned, darker now, more oppressive. The ridge, which had seemed merely alive before, now felt malicious. The wind carried a low, distorted hum, a subtle vibration through the snow that resonated under our boots. Every hollow pocket beneath us pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat we weren't meant to hear. "We can't stop now," I whispered to Lena, scanning with a thermal camera. The heat signatures beneath the crust were multiplying, forming more complex, coordinated patterns. Segments twisted and interlocked, moving with intelligence, anticipating our steps. Mason trailed, pale and trembling. He kept glancing down, as if expecting the snow to open beneath him at any moment. And he was right. The first attack came from below. A hollow cavity collapsed beneath his foot, tipping him into a 3-foot depression. I lunged, pulling him out, just as a segmented mimicry lunged from the adjacent drift. Its pale, human-shaped form twisted at impossible angles, perfectly mirroring Mason's movements, matching his panic, and tried to exploit it. "Do not panic," I shouted. "Mirror my steps exactly." The snow reacted immediately. Hollow pockets shifted, forming segmented tunnels under our feet. The mimicries multiplied, layering over one another. One formed a perfect replica of Lena, calling for help in her exact voice. Mason froze again, almost running toward it. I grabbed him by the arm, yanking him back violently. "It's not her. It's not anyone." I barked. The ridge narrowed further. Hollow pockets opened unpredictably, twisting like veins under ice. Thermal scanners revealed multiple partial forms, some human-shaped, some entirely alien, moving in coordination beneath the crust. The snow wasn't just adaptive. It was strategizing, attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. I realized the danger fully. This wasn't random mimicry anymore. It had learned our coordination, our fears, our patterns, and was now using them against us in real time. A sudden, massive collapse. A section of the ridge buckled under Lena, and she fell into a cavity deep enough to swallow her legs. I lunged, grabbing her jacket, but new mimicry lunged upward, segmenting rapidly, aiming for her torso. The snow surged like a living predator, hollow pockets twisting violently. I shoved the wand into collapsing snow, stabbing at the hollow segments, forcing the mimicry to retract. Mason screamed as he stumbled again. The boy's mimicry appeared beside him, pale, blank eyes, twisted angles, perfect replication of his fear. "It's him," Mason whispered. It's the boy. No. I shouted. It's only a record. Only a copy. The mimicry lunged toward Mason, faster this time. I intercepted, using my weight to block, yanking Mason out of reach. Behind us, the ridge collapsed further. Hollow pockets opened like doors, tunnels forming and reforming in real time, threatening to consume us. I realized the snow had begun mimicking entire human forms simultaneously. Not just one at a time, but layers of partial mimicries attacking coordination, splitting attention, testing reaction speed, exploiting fear. Every twitch, every stumble, every glance was recorded, calculated, and immediately acted upon. We have to retreat systematically. I ordered, follow my exact steps. No deviation. Mirror me. Lena, stay in line. Mason, focus on me, not the echoes. Step by step, we advanced. Each hollow pocket flexed beneath our feet, some collapsing deliberately, some rising like walls to guide or trap. Mimicries darted from beneath, twisting, lunging, retreating, then reforming elsewhere. The boy's mimicry became more pronounced. It spoke, perfectly imitating his terrified voice. "Evan, help me, help me." Mason froze. His instinct screamed to respond. I gripped him firmly. Do not answer. It's testing you. It's recording you. Hollow pockets collapsed in a synchronized wave beneath the ridge. Sections of the snow surface rose, undulating like muscle, pinching our path, blocking retreat. I felt the first real surge of terror. The snow was not just a medium for mimicry anymore. It was now an active combatant. I jabbed my wand repeatedly, forcing the snow to collapse segments safely. Lena kicked at hollow ridges, breaking mimicry shapes mid-rise. Mason clutched the rope I had anchored earlier, stepping carefully, trembling. We reached a partial plateau. The mimicries paused momentarily, as if recalculating. Hollow pockets realigned, tunnels shifted subtly, preparing for the next assault. I could feel it, decades of adaptation, the intelligence of generations of recorded interactions, all now focused on us. Mason whispered, barely audible. It knows us. It knows exactly how we move. Yes, I said quietly, voice trembling despite my training. And every mistake we make will teach it. Every fear will strengthen it. We retreated again, inch by inch, maintaining perfect coordination. Hollow pockets collapsed behind us, some partially consuming snow segments that contained mimicry forms. Thermal scanners flickered as faint heat signatures twisted and reorganized beneath the surface, a living network adapting in real time. Finally, after what felt like hours, we reached a safer ridge, snow segments still shifting faintly, mimicries retracting beneath the crust. Mason collapsed, shaking, unable to speak. Lena was equally exhausted, staring blankly at the ridge. I looked back at the partially collapsed, pulsing snow. Hollow pockets flexed subtly, segments forming faint, human-shaped heat signatures. Watching, recording, waiting. I knew the truth. The first full-blown assault had only reinforced the intelligence beneath Pine Hollow Ridge. The snow wasn't just adaptive. It was strategic, patient, and deadly. I pulled Mason close. If anyone out there is listening, understand this. The snow here is alive. It mimics. It learns. And it will strike again. Do not follow voices. Do not trust familiarity. Every instinct to test becomes a weapon. Outside, faint ripples pulsed under the crust, like the ridge itself was breathing. Hollow pockets shifted in a slow, deliberate pattern, observing, practicing, waiting, and I realized a chilling reality. We were now part of his memory, a new dataset for decades of learning, feeding the intelligence that would continue to adapt long after we left. The night was blacker than any I'd ever seen on Pine Hollow Ridge. The moon, a thin sliver, offered almost no light, and the wind had picked up again, howling across the snow like a chorus of whispered warnings. Every sound echoed unnaturally, amplified by the hollow pockets beneath our feet. I gripped my avalanche wand tightly, feeling the weight of the thermal scanner and the rope anchoring our path. Lena and Mason were close, each step measured and deliberate, but I could sense their panic simmering just below the surface. The snow knew. It had been learning from us for hours, days, even decades. Ahead, the ridge opened into a wider plateau, the forbidden chute partially exposed. Hollow pockets dotted the slope like open veins. Thermal signatures pulsed beneath the crust, coordinated, deliberate, intelligent. And now, the mimicries were no longer partial. They were full-bodied, fully human-shaped, moving in unison, each one a perfect replica of past victims and of us. Stay calm, I whispered. Mirror my movements. Do not react to the voices. The snow shifted beneath Mason. One of the mimicries rose from the crust, his own face, twisted in terror, calling for help in his voice. Mason froze. I grabbed him, shaking him sharply. It's not you. It's only a copy. The mimicries lunged simultaneously from multiple hollow pockets. One formed Lena, calling her name. Another formed me, twisted, distorted, advancing on Mason. The snow beneath our feet pulsed in coordinated waves, collapsing tunnels behind us while opening new ones ahead, a labyrinth of adaptive traps. Move. Step exactly where I step. I barked. Do not hesitate. We advanced slowly. Each step had to be calculated. Hollow pockets flexed like living muscles. Mimicries attacked from beneath, lunging upward, then retracting, testing our reactions. Each false move was recorded, analyzed, and immediately exploited. Then the boy appeared, his mimicry, pale and wrong, completely human-shaped, twisted, and silent this time, matching every subtle motion of Mason's body. I realized with a chill that it was using Mason as a template, not just observing. It wasn't merely testing. We were its prey, its study. A deep tremor passed through the ridge. Hollow pockets opened rapidly, collapsing tunnels directly beneath our path, forcing us to leap in unison. Mason tripped, nearly falling into one cavity, and the mimicry surged up behind him, perfectly mirroring his stumble. Lena yanked him back, and I shoved my wand into a hollow pocket, stabbing at segments of the mimicry to destabilize them temporarily. The ridge was shaking violently now. Hollow pockets flexed and collapsed in rapid succession. Mimicries emerged from multiple angles, each one full-bodied, human-shaped, grotesquely segmented, their faces twisted in expressions of fear and terror. I realized with horror, the snow wasn't just adaptive anymore. It was aggressive, strategic, and fully predatory. We need to reach the old pine cluster. I shouted. It's the only stable ground for retreat. Step by step, we advanced. Hollow pockets rose like walls. Mimicries lunged. Thermal signatures pulsed unpredictably. The snow beneath our boots flexed in real time, testing every reaction. My muscles burned from maintaining balance, from keeping Mason aligned with us, from stabbing hollow segments to collapse mimicries mid-lunge. Then a partial tunnel collapsed, sending a shockwave through the ridge. A segment of the mimicry, human-shaped, pale, twisted, lunged upward from the debris, grabbing Lena's leg. She screamed, yanking free. Mason froze, watching. I realized then we were being fully isolated one by one, tested for reaction, fear, coordination. The boy's mimicry moved closer to Mason, whispering his name in an echoing, distorted tone. Mason's instinct screamed to respond. I slammed my hand onto his shoulder. Do not answer. Step exactly where I step. We made it to the pine cluster. Solid trunks, roots buried deep, offered temporary stability. The mimicries paused at the edge, partially retracting into the collapsed hollow pockets. But their heat signatures flickered like a heartbeat beneath the crust. They were still observing, still recording, still adapting. Lena checked Mason for frostbite, but his skin was pale, almost unnaturally cold. The emotional weight hit me. We had survived the full assault, but barely. The mimicries hadn't been defeated. They were waiting, patient, intelligent, and relentless. I knelt beside Mason. Listen carefully. I said, the snow remembers every step, every fear, every instinct. If it calls your name, do not respond. If it imitates someone you love, do not follow. Mason nodded, trembling. But the boy, the mimicry, it almost got me. Yes, I said softly. And it would have, if we hadn't stayed coordinated. It's learning faster than any of us can react. And now, we're part of its memory, another dataset for its network of tunnels and mimicries. The ridge outside pulsed faintly. Hollow pockets opened and closed rhythmically, segments rising and retracting. The mimicries remained below, dormant but alive, waiting for the next interaction. It was patient. It would test us again. And we were trapped within its study. I glanced at Lena. We've survived, but only just. The snow network is too intelligent, too adaptive, too deadly. We have to document everything. Every hollow, every mimicry, every collapse. Anyone else who comes here needs to know the truth. The boy's mimicry remained in the distance, still perfectly human-shaped, still whispering his name to Mason. I swallowed hard. We cannot take him back. Not yet. It's too dangerous. The snow is still alive, and it's still learning. Outside, the ridge remained deceptively calm, but I could feel intelligence beneath the snow. Hollow pockets flexed subtly. Mimicries formed, retracted, and reformed elsewhere. It was patient. It was intelligent. And it would continue to adapt long after we left. I knew then, with chilling certainty, that Pine Hollow Ridge would never be safe again. And any future travelers, hikers, or rangers would face the same relentless, adaptive, living snow unless they understood the rules we had learned the hard way. The morning after the assault, Pine Hollow Ridge seemed calm. Too calm. The snow glistened under pale sunlight, smooth and undisturbed, but I knew the truth. Beneath that pristine surface lay tunnels, mimicries, and hollow pockets, all alive, all calculating, all patient. We retreated to the cabin, exhausted and silent. Lena and Mason huddled under blankets, shivering, still processing the night's terror. The thermal scanners showed faint, undulating heat patterns beneath the ridge, mimicking nothing and yet everything. Proof that the snow network was still alive, still learning. I sat at the table, flipping through the historical files again. Decades of disappearances, hollow tunnels, mimicries, and official cover-ups stared back at me. The weight of it pressed down like a physical force. The snow wasn't merely dangerous. It was sentient, adaptive, and centuries old. Our lives had intersected with something we could barely understand, something that had been studying humanity long before we arrived. Mason spoke quietly. So, the missing hikers, they weren't really gone? Yes, I said softly. They were recorded, observed, integrated into the snow's memory. And that memory waits, patient, for anyone who steps here again. Lena shivered. So we survived, but we didn't defeat it? No, I admitted. We survived because we were careful, coordinated. We obeyed the rules. But the ridge is alive. It remembers us now, and it will continue to adapt. We discussed our next steps. We could report everything, file official complaints, attempt to evacuate the area, but the files and decades of cover-ups made it clear. The system protects itself, protects the illusion of safety. Even if we revealed the truth, few would believe it, and anyone who ventured back without understanding the snow's intelligence would be at risk. Mason sat quietly, staring out the window at the glistening ridge. I could see the terror etched into his features. Will it remember me? He whispered. Yes, I said. It will remember all of us, and it will use that knowledge if we return. The best we can do is survive and warn others. I realized in the moral weight of our situation. We had witnessed something unnatural, something that defied logic, science, and protocol, yet our duty as rangers demanded we document it. To stay silent would be complicity. To speak would risk disbelief, ridicule, and potentially dismissal from our careers. But the stakes were far higher than reputation. They were life and death. I began typing up the reports in secret, documenting everything. Hollow pockets, mimicry forms, adaptive behavior, thermal patterns, historical evidence. Every detail mattered. Every observation could mean the difference between survival and disappearance for future rangers, hikers, or anyone foolish enough to traverse the ridge unprepared. Even as I worked, the ridge pulsed faintly under the cabin sunlight. Hollow pockets shifted, subtle but deliberate. Mimicries were formed beneath the surface, partially visible as heat signatures. It had learned from us. It had integrated every fear, every instinct, every reaction. Lena approached, placing a hand on my shoulder. Do you think it will ever stop? I shook my head. No, not until this ridge is abandoned entirely. And even then it will wait. Patient, silent, watching, learning, forever. Mason turned away, eyes fixed on the snowy slope. I can't forget it, he whispered. I can't stop seeing the mimicries myself reflected in the snow. You won't forget, I said. And that's the point. That memory, the memory of us, is now part of the ridge. It's part of its intelligence. It's part of its strategy. We remained in silence for hours, the wind outside picking up again, whistling through the pines. The ridge remained deceptively calm. Yet we knew it was alive and patient. It didn't need to attack continuously. It only needed to observe, record, and wait. As I documented our experience, I felt a creeping realization. This wasn't merely a story about survival. It was about knowledge, observation, and respect for forces beyond human comprehension. Pine Hollow Ridge demanded discipline, patience, and adherence to rules. Anyone who ignored them, even for a moment, would vanish into its memory, their reactions incorporated into the snow's ever-growing intelligence. By evening, we decided to leave the ridge entirely. We packed carefully, retracing our steps, avoiding hollow pockets, stepping only where we had previously measured the crust. The mimicries remained below the surface, unseen but undeniably present, recording our retreat, learning from our caution. Before we left, I looked back one last time. The ridge shimmered under fading sunlight. Hollow pockets flexed subtly, heat signatures pulsed faintly, and the slope seemed to breathe. It waited. It remembered. It would wait for the next mistake, the next trespasser, the next curiosity-driven hiker. I knew then that Pine Hollow Ridge had changed me forever. The moral burden of survival, the knowledge of something ancient and adaptive, and the responsibility to warn others weighed heavily. The ridge wasn't just dangerous. It was a sentient entity, patient, calculating, and relentless. And it had our names in its memory now. Before leaving, I turned to Mason and Lena. Remember this, I said quietly. If anyone you love goes missing here, if official explanations never make sense, understand that the snow may not just be snow. And if it calls your name, do not respond. Mason nodded, silent. Lena's eyes glistened, and I felt deeply that we were the last to survive the first full exposure of Pine Hollow Ridge's intelligence. As we descended the trail and finally reached the safety of the main road, I glanced back at the ridge one last time. From this distance, it seemed ordinary, peaceful, harmless, but I knew the truth. The snow was alive, patient, observant, calculating, waiting, and it would never forget.